Hey everybody, it's Alex Williamson here on The Secret History Living Inside of Your Aquarium. So, today I want to talk about this little hillstream tank, but specifically I want to talk about this little hillstream buddy. These are called Panda Loaches. Now, I love these fish. Immediately, along with the Pandagaras in here, they got my attention. I have some in here already that are adults. This is their adult pattern. It turns into more of a chain link pattern than just a striped panda pattern. But when they're young, for the first, 6 months or a year of their life, they have this more striped pattern. So that is really cool, in my opinion, that they change like that. They drew my eye immediately. But I decided, okay, I'm going to buy those. I had credit at the fish store recently, and I decided I was going to buy some. And then I had somebody talk to me, and they said, hey, Alex, I know you do the secret history in your aquarium, and you talk about political stuff sometimes, how it affects the fish industry. And I was just curious what you think of the fact that these fish are only found in a couple streams in one province, or one county within one province in China, and that most of their population's not protected in a national park. Only a small piece of it is, and that it's basically been exploited by people going in and both legally and illegally commercially harvesting them on a commercial level. Now, they are on the vulnerable list in China for there could be a possible problem because they live in such a small area. Other problems going on in the area include massive amounts of pollution, and they come from water that is crystal clear, mountain water from rains in the subtropics in this very hilly region that's about 3,000 feet up, or I think somewhere along the lines of 800 or 900 meters tall mountains where they're found and going upward. So I thought about it a little bit. I looked into the issue a little bit, and I just want to bring you guys some info. First of all, there are now accounts and small numbers of people breeding these commercially. And how do we know that, even though they're not? I've talked to a lot of dealers, and they say, I assume that they're wild caught because that's how it's been the last 10 years or whatever. They've only really been big on the market as a popular fish that people really got to know within the last 5 years, really. And they were only discovered in 1980. So, I mean, they're kind of a new thing, like celestial pearl danios. So 2003 to 2006 is when they first were even really on the radar of modern Western aquarists and scientists even. Before that, a guy by the name of Shan in China had categorized them in 1980, but that was it. Noted and categorized them and moved on. So let's talk a little bit. They are found in the Jinxiu, Guangxi Zhuang province, and then the county is the Jinxiu county in China. Now, that is the southern part of China, and that borders down on, down towards Thailand, Burma, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Myanmar. That region, it shares more in common with that than, northern Beijing type of Chinese ecosystems. It's subtropical to tropical depending on the elevation. The pH of the water is about 7.2 to 8.0, so a little bit harder than neutral. There's some limestone in the region. And if you're going to keep these fish, you need to put crazy filtration on. Now, you could use power heads and a bunch of sponge filters, but they like clean water without a lot of particulates. My glass is a little dirty right here, right now, but you can see that I have a 70, good up to 70 gallons on a 17-gallon tank. filter running, and you can see these fish struggling against that. So if they want that, they can be in there. There's sand down under and in the back for them, and little pebbles. And look at these panda loaches, literally can just hang on to that rock like no problem, because they're so small and aerodynamic compared to the bigger fish. So they can actually clean in places that a lot of other fish can't. And they love to eat algae, little crustaceans, and little, Daphnia, and little things that get past the other fish. So very small creatures living on the surfaces of the tank, basically. A lot of which you probably will never see with your naked eye. You need a microscope to see it. So, what else can I tell you about these guys? You want a really mature tank to have them. And now I'm going to get back to the ethical quandaries. So, the region is under pressure pretty extremely to undergo rapid industrialization and globalization. People are getting cell phones. The world economy has all of a sudden tied into this area that was villages that were really remote and cut off until recently. And actually, the people in this region don't necessarily consider themselves Chinese always. Some of the groups are actually part of the Shan people. The name of the national park that they come from is the Daoe Shan Park and National Park there. And that means the people of Shan, which are from Myanmar, which I've talked about with the erythromicrons, the celestial pearl danios, the pandagaras, etc. They come from those regions as well. So there is an ownership of the region that we can hope will come and save these little guys. But what we really want to hope for is a sustainable fishery. Less illegal harvesting is the ultimate goal. Accurate counts on what is in the region, and there are moves on the ground to do that. That has been going on. But that being said, these fish have reportedly gone for up to $100 in the Western world or more. And right now, there was a bumper crop. There was a really, really strong year of these fish spawning. And one of their downfalls is they hang out in groups of about 7 or 8 together. Well, 5 to 7 as adults, but 7 to 9 as juveniles. And that social bond is really important. So if you keep them in a group, and in my opinion, if you keep them, the region is subject to being basically brought up into the 21st century very quickly. That includes things like industrial waste, hydroelectric projects on that river, which will change the flow of the river. Already there's pollution in the river, heavy metals and things like that. Lower down, and it's just a matter of time before civilization reaches these areas as the world grows. That being said, I think that the hobby should really try to embrace these animals, but if you're going to keep them, try to breed them. And I really would suggest that. I know they're tempting and they're really cool, and I bought them originally thinking, oh, it'd be cool if they do breed, but not the biggest deal in the world if they don't, whatever. And now the challenge is on. So in here, I'm waiting for them to get to this size, and then I move them downstairs to a different tank. But in here, these guys are not sexually mature. When they have those bars like that, they are still very young and immature. So I'm going to do my part. I had this credit. It's a silly amount of money. You know, these things usually retail for about $30 a pop. I got a good price on it, about what the guy at the fish shop paid, because I had some credits and we have a good relationship. But I want to start breeding them, and he's like, I hope you do. And the other thing is, they like water a little colder than you may be used to. So if you have water they really like 65 to 72, 74, a lot more than like 80. Like that, they can withstand that from the summer months and things like that. But over time, their metabolism goes quicker. They need more food. Oftentimes, they get other problems. And one more thing, problem wise, if you are going to take care of these fish, is that they oftentimes have protozoa and you need metronidazole to treat them. Now, different distributors may already treat them for that, or maybe your pet store does. Aquatic Arts, I know, does a good job of quarantining. They had them for sale for the price that seems to be what everyone has them for. But if you're not getting them from a trusted source, like something like that you've asked about, you know about, you need to give them some metronidazole, most likely, because bottom feeding fish, loaches and things, catfish, tend to have gut protozoa and worms and things like that from time to time, just because they're scavengers and they eat a little bit of everything and end up sucking up a little bit of everything too while they do that. So I just wanted to give a word of caution health-wise about them, but ethically, my stance is we should keep any fish that's not extremely endangered, but we should do so responsibly. And if you take care of them, one, give them a good, healthy, happy tank to live in, and two, really try to breed a fish if it's a rare fish. If it's a fish that has a very specific ecosystem, to me, like the RU2s that I have, I breed them. If they come from a small region and they're not just, by the boatload, even though there are a lot of these fish in the streams, there's 3 streams in the region, and, it's not the end of the world when they harvest a good amount of them so far. But if they get more and more popular, overharvesting is sure to come. And right now, reproduction on a large scale in captivity seems to be using steroids of some sort. And so it's not known what the long-term effects of that are, but the science is getting way better learning about these fish and what exactly is needed. It's probably the seasonality, the flow of the water. You probably need to mimic what a mountain ecosystem would be doing. And some fish are not anywhere near that fidgety with their reproduction, but there are some notorious fish that you really need to try to cater to that seasonality. Whereas when you leave the light on all day, the temperature stays the same. You're not going to get that. So as they get older, in the tank that they'll be in, I'll have heavy flow, heavy oxygen, just by nature of a hang on the back, maybe even an air stone added. Clean water, low TDS, lots of plants, and lots of rocks for them to munch on, basically clean off. And it needs to be a tank that's been up for some time, like I said, that has something for them to eat as far as algae and stuff goes. So even though that's not the prettiest thing in your tank and they don't eat that specific algae, it's a good sign that algae is at least growing somewhere in this tank, and that it's a little foggy up here on the glass, and I do clean it, but you can tell that the fish are eating it. I've got several types of fish that are eating algae right now. So that's what I have to say about the fish. Its Latin name would be Protomyzon. That's its group, and it's the only one in its group. It used to have two fish in its group, but now the other one is in its own group. And then pachychilus. So Protomyzon pachychilus is the Latin name of this fish, in case you were dying to know. And that is kind of the ethical conundrum you'll have to face yourself when deciding if you want to keep this fish. Other than that, I really suggest feeding them live food, giving them a good place to live. Like, look how happy they are just resting up in the flow of a million rivers. To them, I mean, they can cling to rocks in 20 mile an hour, or whatever that is, 16 knot water. So they can hold on really, really well, and that's what they're designed to do. So I want to give them a tank that has at least a region that is exactly what they can do. And last note is I would put broadleafs in the tank in certain places because it's really fun to watch them sleep on the leaves and under like an Anubias or Bucephalandra. They're very Bucephalandra, by the way, has the same exact issue with over collecting rarity and special spots. Try to buy that because it takes a long time, it costs money, but really do try to buy that Bucephalandra, in my opinion, farmed, not wild caught, unless you are going to raise it and share it in the hobby. So that's my little preaching for the day. I hope you guys learned something. I hope this interests you. That region that they come from is just full of strife in that there are Buddhists, Muslims, and Taoists slash atheist Chinese Communist Party members. And then not too far off, there's the Rohingya people down in Burma, and there's been a lot of ethnic violence going on between the Buddhists and the Muslims. And I know most people don't think of Buddhists as violent, but they can be. And they've burned down shacks of the Muslim refugees that have come from Bangladesh and India and things. Historically, we're talking up to 400, 500 years ago in some cases, but they're still seen as foreigners in that land, even though they see themselves as that land being their home, just like America for white people or Europeans that came here. Nobody seems to argue that too much after 500 years, but it's the Native Americans' land to them. So it's all a matter of perspective, but there are a lot of things going on, and I wouldn't be surprised in that region between the environmental and political effects going on and the new trade embargoes on China, which, by the way, today I was told by the same fish store that I got these at, his prices are going up 30% for everything that's coming in from China now, which is a real bummer. So any inventory he has to put out from this point forward is 30% more. So they just passed on that tariff that we imposed on them right back to us. So if you can buy American bread, go ahead and do it. But there's not anyone doing that, to my knowledge, in the U.S. on a large scale. If I'm wrong, please correct me. I would love to hear that. All right, guys. Well, if you liked what you heard today, what you learned, if this was a little more in depth than your average fish care and tips video, please like, thumbs up, share. If you want to see more of this channel, more of this content, all of my funding comes from Patreon and Super Chats during live streams. And I really appreciate all the viewers of the channel and subscribers. So don't forget to click that subscription button and the little like bell. If you made it this far, you know you want to. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Take it easy and peace.